One.
Welcome to another episode of the Less is More Sports podcast, and a very jam-packed episode today. As you can see, me and Spencer have a very Miami-themed theme going on here, with the Miami Heat playing, looking to go up 3.
We got some Canes over here from the 305. Turnover chain.
I can barely even see the chain is the bad part. I can barely see the chain.
It's the background.
The turnover chain is coming from the guy that wasn't even a fan of the turnover chain when they started it.
I think it's grown on him.
Yeah, but then the proof is in the pudding. It excited the guys. They led the nation in turnovers. So.
And the wise words of him, winning is my guy, F the rest. You know how he rolls.
Yeah.
If it works, it works.
It was funny. They got the rings this year. They got another set of touchdown rings this year. It says to the crib or bring it to the crib. And I sent it out, and everybody was just like, that's fake. And I was just like, guys, it's Miami. It's definitely not fake.
Anything Miami does doesn't shock me anymore.
And speaking of which, the Miami Heat, of course, playing tonight at 8:30, looking to go up to 3-0 on the Boston Celtics. Ready for that. Got the D-Wade jersey on lock right now. And, of course, Klucas right now is the bastard of the bunch, rocking some Ohio State gear. And he is more than proud of it. But
I am.
That is a theme that will be discussed later in the show. But
I've been there. I've been to that stadium. I have worn the 2006 championship ring. I have proof.
I am jealous, low-key, actually. Well, not even low-key, like totally high-key. I'm just jealous. And as I say I'm jealous, Duke just got scored on again as I got that game on in the background. So I'm very, very disappointed right now. Yes, we're about to be down 17-6 to Boston College after putting up a very decent fight to Notre Dame a week ago. But anyways, without further ado, let's actually get into the show. For starters, I want to give a big shout-out as an order to a guy that was previously on the show, and that is 4-star offensive center Jackson Light, who is now the number 1 center in the class of 2021, according to 24/7. So shout-out big guy. So shout-out to the big guy right there. And from one Oregon –
See what happens? You come on the show and you become big time. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
Hey, Corey Foreman, I've reached out to you too. You're the number 2 ranked recruit. Maybe if you come on the show, you'll be number 1 by the end of the week. So shout out to Corey Foreman on that. But from one Oregon center to another, the Oregon basketball team has signed 5-star Nathan Biddle for the class of 2021. And according to ESPN, he is ranked as high as number 8. But according to 24/7, he is ranked 17th. For if you haven't seen Nathan Biddle play, he's a 6'11" stretch big, but needs to add a lot of weight. Only 200 pounds and at 6'11". Draws a lot of comparisons to Channing Frye. So I don't know if either one of you have even seen the guy play at all, or.
I have not. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't start watching upcoming recruit. I don't like the high recruits we already know about for the most part. The top 5. But I'd say I don't start watching everybody else really until about December of the college basketball season is when I start paying attention.
I think that's fair. I think Spencer's a lot in the same boat.
Yeah.
But for the big topic that Klucas just can't wait to talk about, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have decided that they're going to play football this fall. The Big Ten their first weekend of games will be on October 23rd and 24th. Klucas, what are your thoughts? I know you got the Ohio State repping in the background.
We back, boys. We're back. That's all I'm saying. I said last week on the show, if they can get this done by October, there's still a chance. I'm not going to lie to you. After last week after the show, Ohio State's best offensive lineman, Wyatt Davis, said he was out. Their best corner, Sean Wade, said he was out. So even though I knew going into that next Sunday they were getting ready to do, revoting, I kind of said to myself after seeing both of them opt out, I said, well, maybe they already know something that we don't know yet, and maybe them opting out is a sign. And so I had kind of not necessarily lost hope, but kind of just said to mentally prepared myself for there might not be any Big Ten football this year. Then I wake up Sunday morning to not official news, but, everything going on Twitter that everybody's saying the Big Ten has pretty much unanimously voted that they're coming back. So I got really excited again. And then the official news broke out, I think, what was it, Monday or Tuesday, that they were officially going to come back. And then, right on cue, right after that, Wyatt Davis and Shaun Wade opted back into the season, which, I had said, if we do play and those two don't play, that's two huge losses. But, them coming back obviously makes Ohio State's potential national championship run still intact. So I'm very excited. I really like this team going into this year, especially a second year of Justin Fields. This is probably arguably the best receiving core in the country. So I'm very, very excited to see a Justin Fields, Ryan Day, year 2, what they can draw up and what they can come up with.
Speaking of Justin Fields, he's taken a lot of credit for the Big Ten looking to move on with the season. How much credit are you willing to give Justin for that?
I'm willing to give Justin 40 to 50% of the credit. There were a lot of schools in the Big Ten. Like I said, when we talked about this last week, there was a lot of more he said, she said in the Big Ten of who actually voted to play, who didn't actually vote to play. So, obviously, the Penn States, the Michigans, and all of them that were pushing to play, they're going to get huge because, when you got your big name schools in your conference coming out saying, we want to play, it's kind of hard for you almost to sit back and say no, when those are your money, that's your money and everything. But Justin's been huge on this. He could have just sat back and said, if we play, we play. Could have had that mindset of, I'm already a projected top 10 pick for next year, so we play. It's cool. If not, I could sit back and prepare for the draft next year. But he was very, he had said from the beginning before they even announced no Big Ten football that him and Trevor Lawrence were the front runners to say we're playing regardless. And then, obviously Justin's been a huge advocate of of pushing the Big Ten to play. So I'm willing to give him almost half the credit for it. The petition that he did start did somewhat help sway the Big Ten voters. So, I'm willing to give Justin 40 to 50% credit for this. So he's been huge.
And I got to ask you now, with the Big Ten actually starting back up, who do you think the biggest threat to Ohio State is in the Big Ten?
Penn State.
Even without Micah Parsons?
Penn State, if Micah Parsons still hasn't said whether he's going to opt back in or not, they're still waiting to hear from him on whether he is or not. But even without, I think Penn State can draw the biggest threat when you have James Franklin, who's a very good coach. They do have other talent elsewhere. So Michigan, I'm never really worried about. Ohio State seems to always have their number. Even post-Urban Meyer era, Ryan Day still has Michigan's number. Michigan State could be that one team that surprises me. Not surprise me in terms of they could come out and shock us potentially. But outside of that, I looked at Ohio State's schedule. Opening up the year against Nebraska at home. It's a decent game depending on what kind of Adrian Martinez we're going to get this year. So
it's tough to do, fanboys.
They just get scored on again.
Blown coverage, deep bomb down the middle.
To Georgia Tech.
No, to Boston College.
Oh, that's right. They're playing Boston College. Sorry, I was watching Georgia Tech highlights right before this.
Why were you watching Georgia Tech highlights?
Because they were showing the old school Jonathan Dwyer in them, so I was watching some of their highlights.
Why would you ever
triple option Ramblin' Wreck?
Why would
Jonathan
you ever
Dwyer
support
and Josh Nesbitt?
Why would you ever support Jonathan Dwyer?
I don't support him, but it doesn't take away that he was a beast in college.
That's a good answer because he's a terrible human being.
I agree, but it doesn't take away the fact that he was a good college football player to watch, an exciting one to watch.
Fair enough. But anyways, when the Big Ten decided to opt back in for the 2020 season. I almost thought it was almost too late. I know you've said from day one, if they can play by October. But Spencer, do you think that's too late or good timing, or what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, it doesn't really. I mean, you're going to get 8 games in. You're going to have your Big Ten championship game December 19th, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it's too late. I think you get your 8 conference games in, and that really is the bread and butter of your schedule to begin with.
The only game they're really missing out of it is Oregon. I mean, as far as like the non-conference goes.
I mean, but the Pac-12 hasn't decided whether or not they're going to play to begin with. So you're going to have your conference games, and your 3 non-conference games were usually cupcakes outside of Oregon, of course. But for the majority of Big Ten teams, they had cupcakes non-conference games. Your big-time teams like Ohio State, Michigan State, they were playing Notre Dame and, those out-of-conference games as some of their, games that you're not going to see. But I, to be honest, personally, I don't understand why we're going to wait 5 weeks to play football. Like, if you want to play football in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
I think what they're trying to do is, teams like Ohio State and them have still been practicing, but I think they're trying to give those other schools that didn't practice, they're trying to give them some kind of leeway to try to get back into the tune.
I mean, all of those schools were, in a sense, practicing up until they decided 2 weeks ago or before Labor Day to say, hey, we're not going to do the season. So, I mean, everybody went through their summer training and I'm going to give you 2 or 3 weeks. 3 weeks is reasonable, but, I mean, the NFL had a couple weeks. I mean, I should say start it middle of October. So I think 3 weeks is reasonable. You can get the logistics worked out. You really don't even have to do that because they're in conference games and you've gone to these places before. And so, but talking about credit, you do have to include the White House. The White House threw its support behind the Big Ten, and definitely the weight of the White House and the president was influential in this decision, especially when you're dealing with state governments who control these state schools. So can't forget about that. So some credit needs to go there. Obviously, from a social standpoint, it was probably political. The Rust Belt is huge in this year's election. So it's just another feather in President Trump's hat that he was able to assist the Big Ten in coming back. And he said it from day one that they should have been playing to begin with, even when he had his conversation with Trevor Lawrence. So, I think it's good for football. It's good to have the Big Ten back. I was talking with Les earlier this week that I think this is a great opportunity to have, depending on what the Pac-12 does, 5 teams in the playoff and have a play-in game for that 4th seed, because you don't have any out-of-conference games except for the exception of the ACC with Miami played University of Alabama Birmingham, and probably some cupcakes there for some of the other schools. But I think this is a great opportunity to get 5 or 6 teams into a playoff and go from there.
I mean, it would be ideal with now all the Power 5 conferences being deciding that they are going to play football. I think this would be ideal for 6. You would have the conference champion from the Power 5 and then one at-large bid.
I just the problem that I've always had with college football is that you don't have enough non-conference games against Power 5 opponents to really gauge how well your conference is, how good your conference is. So, I mean, we always assume that the Big 12 and the Pac 12 are 2 of the weaker Power 5 conferences. And so I sometimes it's not really fair to assume that, considering one plays in a time zone 3 hours behind us. So I think it's a great opportunity for college football to finally fix the mess that they have in their postseason.
I also think it's where it's great for college football, in my opinion, is when the season began, we had the Power 3 conference, and there was, if that season had played out, and then the Pac-12 and the Big 12 never did join, there's always going to be that discussion. What if Ohio State played? What if Oregon was eligible to play? Would the national champion be the national champion? Now we're going to get that opportunity now where it's the best teams in college football will be playing and be competing for a national champion. And I think college football is always at its best when the best get to play each other.
Right. And that's what the fans want to see anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, I mean, the SEC, you don't get to see your rivalry games between Louisville and Kentucky, Clemson, South Carolina. You don't even get to see Miami and Florida. You're lucky to get to see Miami and Florida State. So, Ohio State and Michigan. Yeah. So,
only because they're in the same conference.
Right.
But especially it's going to be great come college football playoff time, because I think the matchup that everyone's looking for is a rematch between Clemson and Ohio State, a battle of my son versus Klucas' guy, Justin Fields, another rematch of potential and almost a Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota-esque draft style is what could very potentially be seen as the first 2 picks in the NFL draft this year. I think it's a matchup it's a sports writer's dream. You have, what many people thought
anytime you can have the 2 best quarterbacks in your sport playing against each other, it's a writer's dream.
Well, absolutely. Not only that, is you could take 2 teams that are just equally as talented as both Clemson and Ohio State are. You look at Ohio State, even losing guys like Chase Young and Jeff Okudah last year, they rebuild. And then same with Clemson. You lose guys like Isaiah Simmons, but you bring in like Miles Murphy and Brian Brzee, who both look phenomenal already. So, you're just taking 2 great programs and, 2 uber talented teams. And it should be a matchup for the ages. And I'm just glad that as a fan, we have the at least opportunity to be able to see it.
Nope, we no longer have to play the what if game with that.
Right.
So I am obviously, as you can tell by the hoodie, the background, I am extremely, extremely happy for Ohio State football to be back. This is too talented of a team to waste, and too talented of a quarterback to waste a year on.
But sticking in the trend of college football, we got a pretty big game going on in the local scene. And even though we are based out of Louisville, Kentucky, you can't tell based on Spencer's background.
Most of the time, there is a Louisville background.
For anybody that doesn't know, Spencer, sports related wise, pretty much has no, like, fanhood wise, has no affiliation to the state of Kentucky.
I think you're the only one who does have an affiliation with the state of Kentucky out of the 3 of us.
And boys in blue.
Whatever. Sure. Okay. Whack.
Yeah.
But anyways, no. So, I want to get both of your all's opinions on that matchup tonight. You got Louisville versus Miami. I know who Spencer's got, but I want to hear his breakdown of how he thinks the game's going to
go. Obviously, from a Miami offensive perspective, I do expect them to break out the playbook tonight, first conference game. Like I said on last week's program, they really held back the playbooks. They only ran about 5 or 6 different plays. So I do expect to see De'Aaron King show us what he's really made of, what the hype has been all about. And I was talking about this with Les before you came on, Jacob, but really concerned whether or not Louisville's defense, going off of last year's performance, especially at the end of the season against Kentucky, can stop a mobile quarterback like that, and an offense that has a potential to put up big, big numbers. So Of course, not in the sense of maybe an Ohio State or a Clemson on that level, but I think that Miami is they haven't had a spread offense in probably 8-10 years, and they haven't had a quarterback as good as De'Aaron King in 15-16 years. So you've always had talent at the wideout position down there in Miami, but you really haven't had a guy to get the ball to him. So that's what I expect to see. I expect Miami to put up points tonight. Defense is questionable for Miami, so Tutu Atwell could definitely go blow for
with De'Aaron King. So it's going to be a close game. I expect it to be in between 3 and 10 points in Miami's favor. But, again, it's the second game of the season for both teams, and you don't really know what to expect in these types of situations. You only got 13,000 people there for Louisville. But I will say that Louisville's defense has had plenty of time to practice against a mobile quarterback in Tutu Atwell. So I'm excited to see him in his second year and see what he can offer. So it should be a good game. And if it wasn't for Virginia and Virginia Tech not playing, it's probably the best game on the schedule this week. So.
All right, now, Klucas, I want to hear your opinion on how this game's going to go, because I know you got the perfect rebuttal for everything Spencer just said.
So, everybody knows I'm not usually the kind of guy that will tell you that I think Louisville's going to win. But in this case, their chances are a lot higher than most people are going to give them credit for. So, yes, Louisville's defense is a definite question mark. I think if they get off to a slow start, and they didn't necessarily get off to a slow start, but with the muff punt and everything at the beginning last week against WKU, you can't make those little mistakes against a team like Miami because of the way they can put points on the board. But here's my problem. Last week we talked about it that they're going to open up the playbook as they go into ACC play and all this. So, but the defense was a question mark for Miami last week. And so my question is, or my thing is, against I won't say high-powered offense, but against a very good offensive team in Louisville, are they going to have enough defense to stop Louisville from scoring? And that's my question.
Well, I mean, it was really the defense gave up 10 points last week. Muff punt. We had our own special teams problems. I guess that's to be expected when you don't have much practice and you're dealing with COVID. But, it's like I said, I think it could go blow for blow. I definitely Louisville was looking for a little bit of revenge, especially from last year. I mean, Miami didn't have much to cheer for last year, but they did play very, very well against Louisville. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of 57-25 or 52-27. It was really just, Miami's offense wasn't as good as it was last year. So it's going to be very interesting to see what goes on between these two offenses, these two defenses.
I like in a close game like this, most people will tell you. So I like Louisville's weapons a lot more than I do Miami's. All-around weapons that they have at receiver, running back. That's just me personally. But in a close matchup like this where you said it could be a shootout, just like most analysts will, you got to go with the better quarterback in the game. And De'Aaron King is definitely the better quarterback. I think Miami will edge this one out. But like I said, I'm giving a better percent than most people will for Louisville to win this game.
No, I mean, that's what the rankings bear out, and that's what Vegas is saying. It's a 1.5-point spread. Last week it was a 3-point spread in favor of Louisville. And the rankings have Miami edging Louisville with 17-18, but, rankings are rankings.
You see, this matchup is very intriguing to me because Miami and Louisville, at least when I watch them, are very similar in a lot of ways. Both are par to subpar on both the offensive and defensive lines. Both have dual threat quarterbacks and potential and very good ones at that. And they both have very quick and shifty weapons on the offensive outside. You know, obviously the Tutu Atwells of the world is the one that stands out for Louisville. But the one player that I'm really interested to see, and he's coming off a big week against, in week one was Cameron Harris. You know, Miami had over 300 yards on the ground, and he had a big chunk of that. So I'm interested to see how he performs against that Louisville defense. But it's so anytime you have two teams, to me, that play so similarly, it's always interesting. So I'm going to be tuned in. I'm going to have people over at the condo, so be watching it. Klucas, you're welcome to join, even though you're probably too cool to hang out with me. So
if it wasn't for the fact that there was a couple people my roommate invited over to watch the Louisville Miami game, I would definitely slide by.
That's fair enough.
Wow, looks like we're all going to be watching the Louisville Miami game tonight, as well as the Heat.
Group chat will be lit tonight. Let's just say
absolutely.
that.
It's going to be – I think the group chat's going to be this is why I'm glad sports are back, because the group chat is going to be as crazy as it's been in a long time, you know. Yes. And it's funny because none of us are Louisville fans, even though we're all Louisville natives. Well, Klucas is from Ohio, but grew up and spent most of his time in Louisville, so I obviously got to represent. But we're all Louisville natives that I think want Louisville to lose tonight. I think it's hilarious.
You guys want Louisville to lose for other reasons. I want Louisville to lose because I'm cheering for Miami.
I just think it's funny. I like, you know, Spencer gets, you know, it's funny because Spencer gets on me and Klucas all the time for trolling Louisville fans. And he's like, you guys are just too obsessive and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I get quite, but you got to admit, some of the reactions are great.
Like, you guys hate on your hometown way too much.
Yeah, well, a lot of times you see my post where I'm hating. I'm not really necessarily hating per se. I'm trying to troll certain people into biting on my post.
See, that's what I do. I just troll. Like,
specifically Mari, who's been on this show before. So yeah, I'm trying to bite Mari and to grab it. So.
I don't know. So, yeah. Of course, I can say a little in the same, at least from my perspective, I can say the same thing about Kentucky fans. I love to do it to Kentucky fans on social media.
Nothing brings a greater joy in this life.
Oh my gosh, I love like the go-to Kentucky fanboy, you know, response on my post that I'm just a biased Duke fan. Duke might not even be a part of the discussion, but somehow it gets brought into it, and I'm just like, you're the only one who brought up Duke into this, bud. I don't know. I just love it. You know, I just love trolling. That's just me, though. And I know Spencer.
I really would. I mean, it's really. I know we were having a conversation about it earlier, and we were going to talk about it, but it's kind of hard. I don't have any particular Kentucky basketball player that I hate, that I can really look back over the years and say, hated that guy. It's the fans.
It's the fans.
A little bit of force. Said it's the Commonwealth of Kentucky and the state of Louisville, and there is a border around Jefferson County.
There absolutely is. I mean, only like Louisville natives are aware of what we're talking about. But speaking of which, I think that's a little bit of foreshadowing for in a future episode where me, Klucas, and Spencer will all have a segment on just athletes that we just hated over the years. You know, every sports fan has them. You know, you have the guys you love, and you have the guys that you just absolutely hate. So I think we're going to – and so for a future episode, we're going to have that segment where we just talk about who all we hate. But speaking of hatred, what we are going to get into is a little segment on another podcast that I like to listen to called The Old Man and the Three, hosted by J.J. Reddick. And I know –
I just want to tell you, Les.
Hold on.
I just want to tell you – I'm just saying, I just want to tell you, Les. Outside of talking about the Big Ten being back, this I have been most excited about talking about all week.
Well, let's get into it. All right, you're excited, but let's get into it then. But so debate is who was more hated in a Duke uniform? Was it J.J. Reddick or Grayson Allen? Now, before we get into it, I want to start by saying we ran a Twitter poll on it earlier in the week, and 78% said Grayson Allen was more hated, as opposed to 22% for JJ. And I do want to, before I'm going to let both you two, debate on that. But I do want to point out, too, a lot of the younger fans are going to remember Grayson Allen. Obviously, it was more recent. It's fresher. And social media wasn't as prevalent when JJ was at Duke. So, I mean, that might have contributed. But Klucas got something to say about this. So,
I'm going to let Spencer go first. I want to hear what Spencer says.
Well, I mean, I've had great experience with both of these players. I can remember it was really the dark days of North Carolina basketball. Dean Smith had retired, Bill Guthridge, his longtime assistant, and, taking over the team for a couple of years, took them to 2 Final Fours in 3 years. And then, Matt Doherty came in and – you had a bad recruiting class where you missed out on J.R. Smith because he went to the NBA draft, and then you were in the doldrums of 2002 with an 8-20 season. You're not making the NCAA tournament, and all of a sudden you get this great recruiting class that ended up winning the national championship in 2005. But you've got J.J. Reddick just burying threes from when he stepped on foot at campus. And every single time this guy would go off, and he would go off all the time. Like, I can only remember one slump in JJ's career, and it was at the end of his senior season. And personally, I just think he was trying to press too hard. But this guy would go off, and he was just nemesis. I mean, he was that white boy that Duke always got, and three after three after three after three after three, and it was just frustrating to watch. And you hated him because he was so good, and that is the reason why Grayson Allen is more hated for me, is because I don't have any respect for Grayson Allen. I hated J.J. Reddick because of his play on the floor. I hated Grayson Allen because of his antics on the floor. So Grayson Allen was another – he epitomized more of that white, pompous, prick, douche, Duke attitude that everybody knows what I'm talking about right now. And so –
I have no idea what you're talking about, actually.
So that is the reason why I chose Grayson, just because I have respect for J.J. Reddick. So it's as simple as that. And I think I said that earlier this week, but obviously Jacob has different opinions. So there's no wrong answer. They're both hated.
I'm going to pull a Skip Bayless. Is it my turn now?
Jeez. If you really want me to rant for a long time, I've got plenty.
I feel like if anybody could rant about this, I can. I feel like I can rant longer. Because you want to pull that Skip Bayless, I might want to interrupt you right now and just go on a rant of my own. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's where I'm going to pull. That's where I'm going to pull the Skip. It's my turn to talk. It's my turn.
First of all, that scrub is not to be referred to on this show, especially after his disgusting comments about Dak Prescott and how he should feel about his brother committing suicide. Skip Bayless, you got no respect for me, bud. But I do have respect for Klucas, so go ahead.
I guess I missed that this week.
I want to start out by saying, if anybody doesn't know me, I'm not a Duke fan at all. Les knows this. Spencer knows this. J.J. Reddick is my favorite college basketball player ever. J.J. Reddick is who I mimicked my game off of. J.J. Reddick was the first when I started watching college basketball, was the first player I said, outside of like watching LeBron, obviously being from Ohio, but was the first guy I said, that's who I want to be. I want to be J.J. Reddick. And let me tell you why J.J. Reddick is more hated than Grayson Allen. Because when I'm talking about a player that is more hated, I'm not giving it to somebody who's hated because of his antics. You're to somebody that was hated because of his play. That you just flat out hated watching him because you just didn't like watching him play. So let's start with it. J.J. Reddick. So let's go through everything J.J. Reddick went through while at Duke. He went through, people say, calling his brother gay every game he went, every away game he went to. He went through countless amount of fuck you JJ signs. He went through a sign at a Maryland game saying 3 things America can live without: Osama, Martha, and Reddick. Spencer, I know you're getting a kick out of that. He went through a T-shirt at a game that said, "I'm going to name my kid J.J. Reddick and beat him every day." Spencer's just getting a good kick out of all this. He went through at Wake Forest during the national anthem. For all you people that said kneeling during the national anthem is disrespectful, how about screaming F you JJ during the national anthem? Is that disrespectful?
I think it's disrespectful, but for other reasons. But yeah.
So, obviously. How about one night at Maryland? Maryland fans telling JJ that they had sex with his 12-year-old sister. Or screaming F you JJ at the line. Or having 50 to 75 calls a night on his cell phone, having to change his cell phone number 5 different times while at Duke. I think that screams more hatred than anything. You flat out hate a player so much. Not because of what he does, not so much of his antics, not so much of, he trash talks, does this and that, but because you just don't like how he plays.
Well, honestly, though, did you actually research what they did to Grayson at these away games?
Yeah, I was. Trust me, I was going there, Spencer.
Okay,
yeah,
let
me add something.
But
before you continue.
When I'm taking that, keep in mind where social media was when JJ was there compared to Grayson.
That's another point I was going to make, but I want to point this out before you continue with your point. I want to point this out as a Duke fan. Grayson Allen was so hated at Duke that he was not only a threat to himself as far as his own safety, he was a threat to Duke fans' safety. There were many times, Grayson, the year that he tripped Steven Santa Ana, it was his 3rd tripping incident in his 3rd year. Duke was coming to Louisville that year. It was the year with Jason Tatum and Luke Kennard. My mom didn't want me going to that game, not because she didn't want me to see Duke by any means, but because Grayson alone was so hated that she feared for my safety. Let me tell you, that's the type of hatred that Grayson got. I'm a Duke fan. I have no connection to Grayson Allen except for just being a fan. But somehow my life is in jeopardy when he takes the court. That's the type of hatred we were dealing with Grayson. And I mean, but continue. That's what. Only reason I even brought that up is because Spencer said, "Did you research what was going on with Grayson with the rope?" And
that's my thing. When you're talking about Grayson's hate was more of a personal hate for people. Mm-hmm. It wasn't they hated his basketball game. It wasn't anything like that. They just hated him on a personal level. And I think when you're talking about most hated, I get where you're coming from. Like you combine it, and yes, I get it. I'm talking about strictly from a hate college basketball level. J.J. Reddick, outside of Christian Laettner, was the most hated college basketball player of the whole 2000s decade.
That is up for debate for another episode.
Definitely.
I know. Les is going to debate it. Spencer's going to have other things to say because I know exactly what player you're talking about.
But actually, me and Spencer are talking about. Actually, me and Spencer are in agreement on this.
You actually agree with it, Spencer?
No, I mean, I was actually surprised, but I was actually surprised because Tyler, to me, was a very likable individual, but he didn't do some of the things that you would say Christian Laettner did. I mean, he was pretty quiet. I mean, he just had a lot of passion on the court.
You sure? Brandon Costner would disagree.
What?
Brandon Costner, big man for NC State that Tyler did that little weak-ass swing at and all that.
That's NC State. They're irrelevant.
Oh, buddy.
I mean,
He's not wrong. I mean,
I'm not one to disagree, but I mean, the most irrelevant they've been in a long time is when they had Dennis Smith Jr., and that's just because of how good he is.
I mean, North Carolina had a losing season last year, and we still beat the North Carolina State by double digits at both places. So, but I was actually surprised to see these polls that they would come out with, and it was always Christian Laettner versus Tyler Hansbrough. Who's the most hated? And I mean, I know that you hate the state of North Carolina. There's a lot of hate towards that state when it comes to basketball, especially from Kentucky and Indiana schools. But yeah, when you're successful, you're going to draw a lot of hate.
yeah, well, you know who my most hated player from North Carolina is, but we're going to save that for that segment when we do the most hated players.
And I think here's a point that I think both of y'all are missing, at least with Grayson too. Obviously, Grayson's antics overshadowed his play, but you got to admit the dude had game too, though. And obviously, if he had no game at all, we wouldn't be talking. I don't think the hate would be as bad as it was either. I mean, you got to think this is a guy that bursted onto the scenes in the Final Four, a guy that was, consistently averaging around 15 to 20 points a game at Duke.
Athletic for a white guy.
Huh?
Athletic for a white guy.
Very athletic for a white guy. Was a YouTube dunk contest sensation before he even got to Duke. So, I mean, speaking of Duke, go Dion. Oh, got tripped up. Anyways. But no, that's something I think you all missed in the point about Grayson, though, is that obviously the thing with JJ was how good he was. I mean, he went on to be, at the time, the ACC's all-time leading scorer, obviously only to be broken by Tyler Hansbrough a couple years later. But JJ, it was a mix of not only did he have game, but it was his antics too. So I think combining the two, puts
JJ's antics were just talking to the crowd, though.
Well, talking to the crowd and talking to other players.
JJ loved talking to that crowd, especially that Maryland crowd.
Oh, and I loved when he did it too, because it when he talked to the crowd, it fueled his game, and that's when you would see him go for like 30 and 40 points.
Yeah, you would see JJ struggle early on. Did we lose Spencer?
No, I'm here.
You would see JJ maybe struggle early on a little bit, and then you would just see him start talking to the crowd, and then all of a sudden, there's 1 3, there's 2 3.
Oh, but let's be serious, guys. I mean, part of the hate towards JJ goes back to, these kids on these college campuses, they see what they see on TV. They hear what they see on TV. Duke's Cameron crazies are not any saints.
Oh, not at all. I'll tell you the most disappointing I've ever been being a Duke fan was back in 2013 when that irrelevant team down the road in Raleigh, NC State, came to Cameron Indoor Stadium. They had a point guard by the name of Tyler Lewis, whose grandma passed away a week before the game. And, the Cameron crazies start thinking it's a great idea to chant, "How's your grandma?" As a Duke fan, I was just utterly disgusted at that.
I was utterly disgusted at the child abuse from that one woman smacking that kid in the head.
That was a doll, you weirdo. That was a doll. You stop it. I hate you so much.
That video is still viral to this day.
It is. You don't understand how many people I have had to had to explain that is a doll. I've literally had to sit people down and be like, "That's a doll," people, because I'll see people just freaking out, like, "Oh my God, why are they letting Duke eat their child during games?" That's a doll.
Why would you bring a doll to a game like that? I don't get it.
Okay, they're creative fans. I get it, but you have no idea how many people I've had to tell that is a doll.
I still
child getting beat during a game.
If I see that video, I still to this day share it just because I know I'm going to catch somebody slipping on my Facebook. Is that a real child?
Oh my gosh, I knew Duke fans were horrible. I hear it all the time, and I'm like, oh my, are you all that
confirmation dumb? Bias, baby? Duke fans are horrible.
Hey, no. Hey,
I don't know.
No.
Beating your kids while at a game. I don't know. I thought that could only be done by Alabama fans.
Oh.
Buddy. Oh, we're in some dark territory here, buddy.
I mean, it's a close race between – speaking of Alabama football fans, it is a close race each year, depending on how successful each program is, of which fan base is the worst, Kentucky basketball fans or Alabama football fans.
It's very close, yeah. I would have to agree.
I say right now I give the edge to Alabama, but dang, it's close.
I don't know. As a Duke
They're
fan,
I mean, I listen to the Paul Feinbaum show every once in a while, and those calls, I know there's probably some Kentucky radio stations that receive calls in similar nature, but it's I don't know where they get these people from.
I mean,
taking poison and going to your rival school and poisoning a tree. I mean, gosh.
hey, Spencer, you know Willie that works at FedEx, Big Willie?
Yes.
I was telling him about
Graduated
that.
from UK.
Yeah, I was telling him about that. You know what his exact wording was? He goes, bro. He goes, Les, no offense, I'm not talking about you. He goes, but that's some white people shit. I was like, you're not offending me. Like, it's not me. He's like, no. He goes, you're right. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about, like, the real fratty, like, all them. And I'm like, no, you're wrong. You're not wrong. Like, who thinks of this? Like, I'm going to poison that. I'm going to wake up today, and I'm going to poison that tree. I mean, Alabama fans, y'all are a different breed. I mean, I don't know if it's through, like, the consistent, like, inbred or inbreeding and all that. I don't know. And they say, like, us in Kentucky are bad, but, you know, we are from Louisville, which is a completely different section than Kentucky. So,
absolutely, different state.
We're a different. You know, we're our own district.
Yes,
the District of Louisville. Gonna start calling us DL.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Oh man. So. NFL this week.
Yeah.
Man,
right.
what a Bengals Browns game. I had Kareem Hunt on the bench.
Yeah, that's, you know, what's funny is while we're talking about fantasy football, I had both Nick Chubb and Joe Burrow starting this week, and it was a great decision on my part.
You know, I just got off
hold
the
on,
phone
and
with
let's
Mac. He was like,
talk
I don't
about
know.
that.
He's like, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm gonna have a solid week, but that's hard to overcome 50 points.
Let's talk about that. Les's team named the playoffs, and he loses week 1.
Oh, but I'm off to a great start in week 2. Let me tell you, buddy.
I don't know how I feel about winning week 1. That's the first time I've done it in the 6 years we've had at this league. I mean, I've never won the first week. So, and to Doug's credit, Doug had a great week. He had 135 points, and I just had a little bit of a better week. So
I had let's see, I have zero fantasy football championships, and I think my 2-year record is like 24-2, and I still managed to not even have a championship.
Yeah, most points in both years, I believe. I didn't do the tally for last year because everything that's been going on. I'll have to get to that, but I believe you had the most points last year as well, Klucas.
Yeah, and I still can't win.
It's brutal. You're always knocking on the door.
At least I make the playoffs. So
I was about to say, I don't want to hear it. I had Russell Wilson. I had the NFL rushing leader. I had the NFL receiving leader, and I still didn't make the playoffs.
How do you mess that up?
I don't know.
It's okay because he couldn't take Russ to the playoffs the last 2 years. So now I'm going to show Russell Wilson what it's like to make the playoffs in fantasy football.
I'm sure he appreciates that so much.
So does Christian McCaffrey.
I'm sure. You know what? After this fantasy football season, they're both going to call you up and be like, you know what? Thank you. Thank you, Lucas.
How about the Vegas Raiders 1-0?
Hey, is that your new team?
Vegas Raiders, baby.
So forget the Titans and all that.
I don't know if they can't make another field goal kick. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm glad I didn't stay up and watch that game. I would have had a.
All right, so
I don't know what would happen. 4 kicks though. Come on.
Since this is technically my segment,
All right,
Since this is-
Klucas wants his segment, Spencer. We got to simmer down.
Okay.
Let's get into this.
Hold on. Let me get situated because I'm going to look at because I have them on file. So I'm going to see real quick how Klucas is doing. I'm going to follow along, I should say.
By the way, just for everybody who doubted me, right there, I did have the Browns over the Bengals this week. Just so y'all know. For everybody that wanted to see it, there you go. I did have the Browns over the Bengals.
Hold on, Klucas, before we get into that segment, let's talk about that game. I put a little tweet out on, the Twitter page this week, and I meant what I said. When we're talking about rookie quarterbacks, Joe Burrow has taken the least amount of time to sell me that he's legit. I'm looking at the poise, the maturity, the throws that he's making, the fact that he has to run for his life behind that terrible Cincinnati offensive line, and he's still making plays. They're still trusting him to throw 67 times a game, and he still is fighting these last 2 weeks to give him a chance to win. I'm sold. I was very skeptical on how Joe Burrow was going to come transition from that LSU Joe Brady system to the NFL, but he's picked it up quick. I think that Joe Brady and Joe Burrow connection needed to happen for his own growth, and he's been great for it. I just wanted to get that.
I'm not sold yet, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
I'm very sold right now.
I'm not 100% sold on Joe Burrow.
It's the Browns, guys.
Yeah, let's pump the brakes just a tad bit.
Well, it wasn't just that. I liked what he did against San Diego. Los Angeles.
The one thing that kind of a little bit put a sour taste in my mouth this week, listening to podcasts while at work, is some people were already willing to tag him the best quarterback in the draft class, and I'm like, we haven't even seen Tua touch a football yet.
Right. Sure.
And so, or even Justin Herbert for that. Not saying that Herbert could be better or would be better, but I'm just saying we haven't seen him touch a football yet. You could just keep your Justin Herbert, Trey Young hating ass over there. All right. So
Spencer's on board.
So, and as far as most impressive
football
for
team.
a while, for the most impressive. Speaking of that football team, that's where I was getting to. Or what they were, the Redskins at the time. RG3 kind of impressed me right off the jump.
Whoa! We're gonna have to cut that out.
Shut up, Spencer. RG3 impressed me right off the jump and sold me when he came in. And maybe a little bit of bias. Andrew Luck didn't take that long to impress me either. But then again, when you're quarterback fanatics like all of us, it really doesn't. It takes a lot to impress us, but at the same time, it doesn't. So with that being said, we'll go into Sunday's slate of games. So we'll start with our Indianapolis Colts. They play their first home game of the year against the Vikings. So before I give my prediction, I'll let you all – what do you all think? I'm getting a field goal post, okay?
How are you a Colts fan and not know that that's the shoe, you moron?
I'm just joking with you.
It's Utah. Stole it from Utah.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did. Utah's been doing that for almost a damn near 2 decades.
Anyways, before we get political with all this, so
it's not really political.
I have the Colts winning by a field goal. I have them winning 27-24. I think they have a bounce-back week.
I would have to agree. I think Minnesota's a tough team. It's going to be interesting to see how they can handle the balanced offensive attack of Cook and Cousins. I'll look for Justin Jefferson to maybe get a little more looks this year on offense, so it's going to be interesting. I think we're going to have to make a lot of plays in the backfield. But the Colts don't have a lot of depth at the DB position, and I think Gardner Minshew exploited that last week, so I think we're going to have to get more pressure this week. But I think the Colts do have a bounce-back week. It's unfortunate what happened to Marlon Mack. I hope he for a full.
It's like I saw my buddies this week. I said, "Thank God we're deep at that position."
Absolutely. Brought in a couple other options this week for a workout, so we'll see how it goes. But I think the Colts do have. I want to bounce back from that week 1 letdown. So I think 3-point game's about accurate.
I don't know what to expect out of this game. I was unimpressed with Minnesota against Green Bay. I thought they would have been more competitive, and I was shocked, to say the least, at what happened with the Colts at Jacksonville. But I guess that's what happens when you don't have enough practice, and we talked about that on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, that I'm not touching any of the first weeks. I touched the over-under last week, and that was it. I don't know what to expect this season, especially in the first 4 weeks. So it's at home. I'm going to go with the Colts.
All right, next game. Cowboys play their first home game against the Falcons. I have the Falcons winning by a field goal in that game as well.
I got the Cowboys.
23-20, sorry.
I really want to pick the Cowboys because I think they want to, in a very similar fashion to the Colts, I think they want to bounce back and open up their home opener on a high note. But Leighton Vander Esch went down as well. And when he goes down, statistically, that defense just takes a large portion of the hit. So I want to go the Cowboys, but my mind is telling me that the Falcons are going to win this game. So I'm going to go with Atlanta on this one. Them and the Mean Machine jerseys.
Packers. Green Bay's at home this week against the Lions. I have the Packers winning this 27-13.
Yep. Hopefully the
My
Lions
fantasy
can give me some points from Marvin Jones Jr.
Speaking of which, I need Matt Stafford to get me some points, but
He'll be playing from behind, so those fourth quarter points will rack up pretty quickly.
I agree. So, but yeah, I think I like the Packers in that matchup too. I mean, honestly, I think Minnesota's defense is pretty good, and we saw and I don't think the last couple of years we've seen maybe a shell of what Aaron Rodgers has been, but last week I think we saw the closest thing to a vintage Aaron Rodgers that we've seen in a long time. And for football fans, I think that's exciting. So I'm rolling with the Pack this week.
All right, how about AFC East matchup? You've got the Bills and the Dolphins in Miami. I've got Josh Allen and the Bills winning this 24-14.
Yep, Bills. Easy. In fact, I was talking to a guy, Cowboys fan this week, and big football guy. Me and him always talk football. He has said, always take the Bills on the spread this season. He's that impressed with the Bills. So I tend to agree with him.
I think this is the game that's going to put Miami in a position to start either playing Tua this game or next week we'll see Tua take the
What is
field.
his status right now with his injury, coming off that injury?
Oh, he was supposedly healthy.
He's healthy.
Yes, he was supposedly healthy after he went
He's
through
healthy.
pro
They're
workouts.
just they wanted to ease him into the system and wanted Fitzpatrick to start the year. But I think this is the game that puts
if you go down 0-2, 0-3, I mean, in a division that's kind of wide open, I mean, Miami really doesn't have a chance. But
and it's just like me and my buddy at work were talking as well. Like we were like, if you're gonna go, lose this year, lose with your potential franchise guy and let him go through these learning curves now.
Absolutely.
Let him learn how to lose now, go through these learning curves, and that way you can build off that. It's what Arizona did last year with Kyler Murray.
I could see the catch. You don't want to destroy a rookie's confidence early. So I can see both sides.
That is the most un-Spencer thing I've ever heard. You don't want to destroy your confidence early. You're usually the person that's like, learn from these mistakes. Like, just throw it out there.
I usually am, but, I mean, the quarterback is such a central role, and the NFL defenses can be extremely scary. So, I don't know. It's like I said, it's a balancing act when it comes to rookie quarterbacks. I kind of feel for Burrow.
I mean, Burrow's playing well. He's doing what he can do.
I'm cautiously optimistic about him.
But before you move on, I will have to agree. The Bills, I like them. Yeah, both sides of the ball.
All righty. So, 49ers and the Jets, the sorry Jets. I've got the 49ers coming out 37-13 in this one.
They better. Yeah, I guess Arizona's gotten better, but I still expected San Francisco to win that division matchup.
I mean, I did too.
Super Bowl slump. So it could be. I don't know.
But, I mean, I don't like the fact that, from San Francisco, that Kittle's hurt. We don't know how long he's going to be hurt. Someone that's so vital to that offense. But at the end of the day, they are playing the Jets. So,
yep.
I don't think there's much to discuss about there.
All righty. Rams and Eagles. I got the in Philly. They got the Rams pulling out the win 28-20.
Time's that game?
That's the 1 o'clock game.
Yeah. I'm going with the Eagles.
I can't respect a team that loses to a team called the football team.
At least my team lost to a team with a name last week.
Exactly. So I'm rolling with the Rams. Philly, you're sorry.
I was just really impressed with the Rams losing Todd Gurley to, how they would pick back up in the run game. And, a lot of us expected Cam Akers to take a lot of the carries. And Malcolm Brown actually took a lot of the carries and did very, very well. I know you were excited for that, Les. Being he's a former Longhorn. The Rams are they're going back to what got them to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Last year they were trying to prove that, Jared Goff is worth the contract he got and was trying to air it out a lot. And didn't work out a whole lot for him. Now they're going back to that, all right, we're going to run to set up the pass, and it works a lot better for Jared Goff, which, by the way, is the way the Browns need to go for Baker. Run to set up your pass.
I agree 100%. Also, Carson Wentz was sacked 8 times last week, so it looks like Philly's got some serious issues on the offensive line. Anytime you have issues on the offensive line and you got a guy by the name of Aaron Donald on the other side of the line, that's a problem. So,
all righty, Broncos and Steelers in Pittsburgh.
Steelers.
I got Pittsburgh 23-17.
That defense is too good. Daniel. I thought in a lot of ways Daniel Jones made a lot of good plays last week for New York, but Pittsburgh they could not block. New York just could not block Bud Dupree, and they just were able to get those couple plays that made the difference. So,
Saquon Barkley had less than 10 yards?
He had for a while he had negative rushing yards. I mean, and the thing about it is though, anytime he got a foot of space, he was good. He was Saquon. He did his thing, but
right.
He didn't. Every time he gets the ball, somebody's already on him before, right as Daniel Jones hands the ball off to him. So it was insane. I mean, that Steelers defense, I think, is the best defense in football right now. I know I've made the case for San Francisco, but I'm really impressed with Pittsburgh's defense.
I think it's a toss-up between Buffalo and Pittsburgh, between who's got the best defense in football.
Honestly, I think it could be – you could make a case for 4 teams. I think Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Buffalo, and Baltimore all have great –
Yeah, I was thinking about Baltimore as well. And considering Baltimore and Pittsburgh played the 2 worst schedules in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's going to be a great matchup later on in the season, and we get it twice.
Looking forward to it.
Yep.
All righty, so
hold on. What y'all think of Big Ben?
I thought he looked good.
Yeah, I did too.
He looked average.
All right, less hating per usual. All right, so
no, I thought he overthrew a lot of passes that a typical Big Ben should have made. I thought he looked a lot more nervous than what a 16-year vet should look in your opening game of the season. I don't know. Just he made some nice passes to Juju in the end zone, but I just wasn't overall. I guess anytime you're a future Hall of Famer, I guess my expectations are here, and he played about here for me. So
that's what she said.
All right. Anyways,
Yeah.
Tampa Bay playing their first home game against Teddy B and the
I was
Panthers.
referring to Big Ben, so sorry. Yeah, that was supposed to be a Big Ben.
I thought you were throwing shade at me, and I wasn't even mad at it.
No, I was referring to Big Ben because of his history. But
I know what his history is. I know.
So, Tampa Bay, Carolina.
Ooh,
I've got Tampa.
It's a good
Tampa
one.
Bay. I got Tampa Bay bouncing back 31-24.
At Tampa Bay.
Why are we agreeing so much? I got Tampa Bay. I don't know how much I like it. I don't know if I like it or not.
Yeah, it's Tampa Bay. No, is it at Tampa Bay, though?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, at Tampa Bay.
All righty. Spencer's Titans are at home this week against the Jaguars.
How many kicks will they miss this week?
As long as he hits the last one, that's all that matters.
I'm gonna put an over/under at 3 and see where we go from there.
I got the Titans winning this.
I will find Mr. Goskowski, who was a fantasy kicker for 3 years for me. I'm thoroughly disappointed in him. No, I got the Titans.
I would agree. And I want Derrick Henry to go off.
All righty. How about Danny
hold
Dimes?
on. You can talk about that Titans defense too as being one of the best defenses in the league as well.
I think they have a very good defense. I think those four are in a category of their own. I think the Titans are just on that outside looking in, but they definitely
Broncos are on the outside looking in as well.
Yeah, Vrabel.
Exactly.
I like Vrabel. So he's been.
He told me he doesn't
great.
like you.
Yeah.
Well.
The Ohio State guy told me he doesn't like you. Just letting you know. I just think it's ironic that it's an Ohio State guy leading your favorite team.
Come on, man. You had a Miami offensive coordinator there for a long time.
So?
I don't hate Miami. Won that 2014 championship.
I don't hate Miami like you hate Ohio State. So
I'm not alone, but yeah.
We didn't ask if you were alone.
So, anyways, Danny Dimes and the Giants are on the road this week against the Bears.
The Bears.
I got the Giants winning this 21-13.
Question.
It's at Chicago?
Yep.
Is Khalil Mack healthy? Is Khalil Mack playing?
I have not seen anything that says he's not.
1 sec.
Gotcha.
Everything looks like he's playing. Nothing about
Chicago. I love my guy Danny Dimes, but I'm not confident in that New York offensive line. You got a ferocious pass rusher like Khalil Mack just waiting to headhunt. I got Chicago.
All right, so there's our first disagreement because I got the Giants.
It's about damn time.
I mean, I've been disagreeing with you guys. So.
All right.
About damn time.
4:05
I had Philly.
game. That's right, you did.
That's right.
So 4:05 game.
And the Cowboys.
We've got that Washington football team on the road against my MVP pick, Kyler Murray, and the Arizona Cardinals. And I've got the Cardinals winning 32-23.
I would have to agree. I don't respect any team without a name. But what I do respect is Kyler Murray because he's a baller. And who I also respect is DeAndre Hopkins. And I am thoroughly impressed with the improvements that defense has made.
You're going to put some respect on my guys, Dwayne Haskins, Terry McLaurin, and Chase Young.
Listen, man,
they don't even have a name.
And orange skin. Might as well just rename it the Washington Orange Skins.
I'm cool with that. At least they have a name at that point.
All right. 4:25. Probably.
The logo can be this and everything.
Maybe the
or a picture of him going.
Maybe the best game of the week.
Wrong.
Maybe the best
good.
game of the week.
Greatest.
Baltimore on the road against Houston.
He's trying to continue, and we're just trolling. But yeah, so you have Baltimore over Houston.
I got
I'm
Baltimore
assuming
33-17 over Houston.
Yeah, I got Baltimore too. But I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a much closer game.
I don't.
It's at Houston. Houston played very competitive against Kansas City. They've had 10 days to prepare.
And they gave up how many rushing yards to a team that's not typical to run the ball a whole lot?
But now they have a
you're
pretty
facing,
good weapon in the backfield now, so it's kind of an unfair statement.
And now you're facing Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram.
I don't know. They probably prepared for Kansas City to throw the ball a little bit more than they did.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of those Chiefs.
All I'm saying is it's going to be closer than 16 points. What's the spread?
Honestly, I don't have that written down.
Honestly, I would have thought the same last year. I thought it would have been closer than it was, but Baltimore just blew them out of the water. Deshaun is just back there running for his life. That Texans offensive line still has a lot of work to do.
So Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs playing their first division game in L.A. against the Chargers. I got the Chiefs winning this 36-20.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's more than that, to be honest with you. San Diego just has no offense at all.
L.A.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're right, L.A. It's too much of a habit for me to keep calling them San Diego.
So, all right, Sunday Night Football. A little Super Bowl rematch from a couple of years ago.
With completely different personnel.
Yep. Got Cam Newton and the Patriots versus Russell Wilson and the Seahawks in Seattle. I've got the Seahawks winning 24-20.
I have the Seahawks winning by more. Exactly.
Yeah, I got
everybody's
the Seahawks.
Everybody's entitled to one wrong opinion.
What, the Seahawks are going to win by more?
Yes.
Seahawks probably by a touchdown. 10 points.
So is Spencer wrong too?
No,
by the way, the spread on the Houston.
His score is a lot closer than what you're saying to mine.
I said by more than 4.
The spread on the Houston-Baltimore game was 7.
F logic.
What'd you say?
Who had the bigger spread in Vegas, the Raiders and Saints or the Texans, Ravens?
The Raiders and Saints, I would say.
Nope. 6 points for them. 7 points.
Well, let's talk about those Raiders and Saints because they open up their brand new stadium this week.
Yeah, it looks sick.
On prime time Monday Night Football.
It looks so sick.
I mean, let's talk about the club patio setting right behind the home bench on the field level. That's insane with a bar. And then let's talk about the club lounge seating right there.
That nobody will be sitting in this week.
And keeping the black hole in the other side. And, yes, thank you, Klucas. Go ahead.
All that for
great stadium, though.
Oh,
great
yes,
stadium.
100%. So, Saints and Raiders. And I've got the Saints spoiling their home debut 27-20.
I'm going to go with the Raiders.
I agree with that.
The Raiders are going to come out pumped up in their home debut, and I'm going with the Raiders.
If there were fans there, I would totally agree with you, Les. But, yeah.
If there were fans, I'd probably pick the Raiders in this one. But I'm going to go with the Saints.
I do think the Raiders are better than what people think, though. So.
Well, all right. So there's our picks for this week.
During
date of the season
that you all want to talk about.
Do what, Spencer?
8-8 on the season.
Yep, started off rough, 500 to begin the year.
That is a typical bad COVID first week.
So we'll be improving as the weeks go on. Don't you worry. I'm already 1-0 this week, so we're off to a good start.
So, are there any other games, college games, that we want to address?
No, but there is one thing I do want to address, though. Let's talk about these L.A. Clippers. I want to talk about them for a second. let's talk about one of the biggest choke jobs in NBA history. How does the king of LA,
That was Golden State.
the new
Yeah,
king,
I was gonna say, right.
they are the biggest choke job. I said this is one of the. I didn't say it was the.
Kind of like Ohio State is in Ohio State University, not the Ohio State University. Spencer, shout out to
Ohio State University.
In Ohio State University.
The Ohio State University.
And Ohio State University. There is an Ohio University. The Ohio University Bobcats.
Anyways, the quote-unquote new king of LA chokes it away, blows a 3-1 lead to the best center in the NBA, Nikola Jokic.
Oh, now you're on my side. I see how it is.
I said he's the best center.
I
said
thought
he's not the best
AD
big
was
man.
a center.
Yeah, AD plays center.
AD is considered a power forward.
Who is considered what anymore?
Center.
Huh?
He's a power forward center. Plus, Jokic plays on the wing more than the post.
He plays the power forward position because JaVale plays the center.
You know what? I am tired.
No one plays anything anymore.
Who actually
positionless basketball
in 2012?
What'd you say?
I'm tired of you disrespecting your boy that gave you a championship in 2012. Stop disrespecting the Brow.
I'm not disrespecting him. How am I disrespecting him?
He's the best center, man.
No, he's not.
He's the best power forward and the best big man in the NBA.
No, he's not.
Listed as a power forward / center.
If you want to say he's the best power forward, that's fine, but he's not the best big in the NBA.
He is 100% the best big in the NBA. The best all-around big man in the NBA.
No, he's not. That is Nikola Jokic. It's Nikola Jokic.
You're smoking.
No, I am
yes.
sober. No. Nobody. Okay, let me.
That. Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna tell you one thing real quick. Call me when Anthony Davis is on the floor, and he puts up and the team that he plays on analytically is the best offense in the NBA. That's Jokic when he's on the floor.
Must be nice when you have teammates around there.
So Jokic is better than LeBron now.
But usually that's his argument on why LeBron is the MVP over AD this season. So does it matter? Or now it doesn't. So
we're talking about I'm not disputing what you said. I'm not disputing
So Jokic is better than LeBron now.
Huh?
Jokic is better than LeBron now.
I didn't say that. No.
No, that's your logic though.
No, it's not.
What?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm comparing AD and Jokic, not LeBron and Jokic. LeBron is the same. LeBron obviously has the same impact for the Lakers and the Cavaliers and the Heat and the Cavaliers before that I'm talking about that Jokic has with the Nuggets.
Well, the stats also say that LA is a better team with Anthony Davis off the floor offensively.
Off the floor offensively? Thank you.
Okay, so take Anthony Davis off the floor then. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Speechless.
Exactly.
You won't take Anthony Davis off the floor.
You're
That's
taking
actually
it,
proving my point, though.
You're taking it as in he's
so
talking
you're
about
telling
Anthony
me that
Davis to LeBron. He's
so
talking
you're
about
telling
Jokic
me right
to LeBron.
now the Lakers are a better offensive team without Anthony Davis on the floor.
I'm telling you that you can't make that conversation with Jokic is what I'm telling you.
Would you take Anthony Davis off the floor?
No, I would not.
Thank you. So that stat is irrelevant.
Is it?
Obviously, you just made it irrelevant.
No.
It's completely anecdotal.
No.
Look, when you're talking about the best player, you're talking about the best all-around player. Nikola Jokic doesn't even hold a candle to Anthony Davis' defense.
I can't believe me and Klucas are actually agreeing today. I'm going to put the chain on. Turnover day.
And congratulations, Anthony Davis offensively doesn't have the skill set Jokic does.
No, he just averages more points per game and dominates the paint.
And also takes more shots, too, and also gets more set up by playmakers on the wing like LeBron. I'm just saying.
Okay.
So much of Anthony Davis's successful season is playing off of LeBron.
You're telling me all of
good
off the dribble?
Points. Hold on, yeah. You're telling me all of Jokic's points are isolated points.
Most of them, yes. A lot more than AD's.
You're telling me a lot of Jokic's points aren't off pick and rolls from Jamal Murray.
And there are a lot of ISO. It's more isolation than AD. He takes his defender a lot more one-on-one than AD does.
So you're telling me AD just doesn't get the ball on the wing and takes his guy one-on-one to the rim.
And he settles for that whack-ass floater. Like, he gets stuck too much. Jokic, you can't, like, stick him at all. Like, there's no guarding that.
I'm sorry. Every time I see Jokic touch the ball in the middle, what goes up? A floater. So what's the difference between an Anthony Davis floater and a Jokic floater?
Jokic's is a lot smoother and a lot more comfortable looking, where AD looks like he's bailing out.
Oh, it's more comfortable looking. So that's the argument now. Because it looks better, it is better.
We need a Twitter poll.
We can. We'll do it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I think Klucas needs to
me
take
and
those blue
Klucas
goggles off. I don't know what Spencer's.
I get it.
I don't know what Spencer's has.
I'll give you the obviously Jokic is a better playmaker, but if I'm looking at it, we're going down the line. Anthony Davis is a better scorer. Anthony Davis.
No, he's not. No,
yes,
he is not.
100%.
You're high as hell. No, he is not.
Get the flip
out of here. Stop. No, he is not
better
a better scorer. What'd you say, Spencer?
Better PER, better plus minus. I mean,
and a lot of that is playing off of LeBron.
He had a better PER even when he was in New Orleans by himself.
No, he does not. Not in New Orleans.
Yes, he did. Literally, they called him a PER king because he was a PER monster when in New Orleans. He was top 5 and top 3 in PER for like 3 straight years.
So you really just hate AD.
I don't hate AD at all. I have an AD shirt in my room, actually.
Better scorer, better rebounder, better defender. I mean,
defender, yes. Rebounding's questionable. I don't know after that. I'm just saying.
Jokic is a better passer. I'll give you an edge of Jokic is a better shooter. But
edge? What? Did you say an edge? He's a much better shooter than AD. Don't even start that bullshit.
When I'm going down the line, that's multiple things for Anthony Davis and only 2 things that Jokic is better than AD at.
Multiple things? No, because I don't give it scoring. Jokic is absolutely a better scorer.
Definitely a better scorer. If I'm talking
Anthony Davis is a better defender. That's all I give you.
If I'm talking,
that's all.
Throw the ball down low. I have a better chance at getting a bucket against any NBA defender in the league. Anthony Davis is going to have a better chance at getting that bucket than Jokic does.
I'm sure Rudy Gobert and the other bigs would disagree with that, but okay.
Oh, what? Zubac?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, that's an elite rim defender, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll give you Rudy Gobert, but
I'm not even talking about the bubble. I'm talking all season. Jokic has a lot more in his bag to get a bucket than AD does, and I just don't think you want to admit it.
Okay, whatever. AD's a better scorer.
Crazy talk. That is crazy talk.
Field goal percentage is the
same. If you're going to say AD is the better player, majority of your argument has to be on the defensive side of the ball, because analytically, AD is one of historically the best defensive bigs of this generation. You can make that argument, but offensively, I'm not hearing it. No, there's no way in hell.
The only thing on offense he's better at AD at is passing.
Stop it. He's a better shooter too. Stop.
Points.
Okay, I'm sorry. If he was not a better shooter, how would Greg Popovich be comparing Jokic to the modern-day Larry Bird?
I said he's a better shooter.
You just said the only thing he's better at is passing.
Okay, sorry. He's a slightly better shooter than Anthony Davis and a better passer.
Not slight. There's nothing slight about it. I'll give you defense and athleticism. That's it.
Athleticism, scoring, rebounding.
He's not a better scorer.
No,
rebounding's questionable in my opinion.
Yes, he is. He averages
he's not.
Points.
He can score more points. That's fine. He can average more points this season. Jokic has more in his bag.
Is though less.
No, a lot of AD's scoring is playing off Rondo and LeBron, off the lobs. That's where a lot of his points come from. Jokic, a lot of it is creating one-on-one and ISO situations.
Maybe.
What about New Orleans?
Okay, let me ask you this. Who is a better scorer? Who is a better scorer, Kobe or LeBron?
Kobe.
Why does LeBron average more for his career?
Two more points.
We're talking about 2 more points versus the whole 10.
We're talking about 10 points.
10? What are you talking about?
10 points.
AD averages 10 more points per game than Jokic.
That's fine. Yeah, you're right. You're right. He also took more shots than Jokic, too.
Whose fault is that?
Y'all are hot. Y'all are hot.
Tell you how much more lethal of a scorer AD is that he's constantly getting the ball to score.
He's also constantly getting fouled and getting to the line.
Yeah, he's also constantly playing through LeBron is what I'm telling you.
Now he is. Go back to New Orleans.
Yeah, Karl Malone was
point per
constantly playing. Michael Jordan was constantly playing through Scottie.
Okay, I'm glad you said Karl Malone. Because that's the same logic I'm using right now, how he played through Stockton. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great player.
Here's the difference. Malone played through Stockton his whole career. Anthony Davis just got to LeBron just now. So you can maybe make that argument now. But you can't make that argument throughout Anthony Davis in New Orleans.
He's not a point guard. What do you expect? He's not going to facilitate his own shots.
And you're talking about a center who can play point guard. I mean, okay, in all fairness, yes, AD can play point guard too. I mean, AD played point guard in high school. I get that.
On your team.
Huh?
It's kind of easy to do that when Jamal Murray takes the brunt of the point guard position.
Even when Jamal Murray wasn't playing in the bubble, Jokic was running the point.
This guy really said he's a Jokic. I don't see how you could even remotely say Jokic is a better scorer of the basketball.
Look what he's got in his bag. Well, his ability to score, his ability to get a bucket is a lot better than AD's. It's a lot more.
Then he should average. Then he should average more points per game.
Because a lot of his game is also based on facilitating. He doesn't.
So
take
is LeBron.
As many shots.
LeBron still averages 27 a game.
That's fine. LeBron also still takes more shots. LeBron's also LeBron. Come on now. LeBron's also LeBron. That is a completely different argument. I'm not comparing Jokic or AD to LeBron.
I mean, I'm comparing AD to LeBron in a way, but
here we fucking go.
Whatever.
Oh, my gosh.
So, get back to the biggest choke job, Klucas. We'll let the Twitter poll figure it out.
Anyways, I just want your all's take on what happened to the Clippers. What do you all think happened to L.A.?
That two-man game between Murray and Jokic, I mean, it was just deadly. They rode momentum. They had, the guys like Grant and Millsap, were feeding off that energy, making great plays on defense. And what's the word I'm looking for? As cliche as it is to say, Denver just wanted it more.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that one.
Murray is really ascending into a superstar. And I think we're seeing that before our eyes.
I think they wanted it more, and I think the Clippers, there is some validity to the Clippers had tired legs. I don't think it's an excuse. I just think it's reality. You got tired legs, that's your problem. But for the last 3 games of the series, I would look at the score, and I was watching some of the games and looking at the score and actively following it. The Clippers would be up by 15 near halftime. The Nuggets would go on a run just before half to close the gap, and then they would just dominate the second half. And that was the case for the last 3 games. Clippers big lead, Nuggets come back, win. And I think that goes to show you that there is some validity to they were tired. I don't know why they were tired. I don't know how they could have been tired. And it's certainly not an excuse because everybody's playing in the same environment. But I don't know. Obviously, I think during a normal playoffs, you would have had more breaks in between than a day off. But again, you're still playing in the same environment. I also want to bring up Colin Cowherd's point that you're seeing younger teams have more success in the playoff bubble than you normally would during regular playoffs. And I think that's something to consider as well. that you don't have crowds involved. I don't know. So definitely disappointing for the Clippers because they gave up a lot for Paul George. And I can't believe the comment that he made at the end where correct me if I'm wrong, Klucas, he said, basically just chalked it up to it is what it is. And
he said this wasn't a championship or bust year.
Yeah, that's kind of not the way the Clippers ownership and GM planned it out. It was basically a championship or bust.
So, personally, I think two things happened to the Clippers. I think the first thing was a lot of the Clippers outside of Kawhi and Paul George didn't even want to be in the bubble in the first place. They had to talk Lou Will in on the last day to go. Montrezl Harrell, obviously, with his grandmother passing away, didn't really want to be there. Patrick Beverley had his own issues with not wanting to be there and having his injuries. I think that played a part in it. They really didn't want to be there. Physically, they were there. Mentally, I don't think some of them were. Another problem is I think the Clippers, and this one does go towards like Kawhi and Paul George and even Doc Rivers, I think they were looking past Denver and thinking about the Lakers already. I think they were looking ahead of what was to come instead of worrying about what was in front of them, especially when they went up 3-1. I think they went ahead and were starting to look at the Lakers and weren't taking Denver seriously. And when you don't take a team seriously that has a superstar like Jokic and an emerging superstar like Jamal Murray, what we saw can't happen. So, personally, as a LeBron fan and an Anthony Davis fan and that, cheering for the Lakers to win this year, makes the road a little easier. Not saying that's going to be an easy pass through Denver, but it does make the light at the end of the tunnel shine a little brighter. So.
That's the real team to talk about during the bubble. The Miami, I saw a post today on Facebook that is so true. And it is that the Miami Heat play with the intensity that the Clippers were expected to. And I think that's reality. Wow. And I don't know why Klucas is walking up the set. I don't know.
He's trying to find some Lakers gear someplace.
No, that's hanging on the wall. I just had to grab a charger real quick.
I'll say, and it goes back to my point that I've been always trying to make about Jimmy Butler, is that he's got this reputation of just being a terrible teammate. But you look at the last – I was looking at a stat today. The last time the Bulls made the playoffs was with Jimmy Butler. The last time the Timberwolves made the playoffs was with Jimmy Butler. The Philadelphia 76ers went the farthest in the playoffs this decade with Jimmy Butler. Now the Heat are back in the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2014, and guess what? With Jimmy Butler. And I've said this for a while before he came to Miami, before he even went to Philly, that Jimmy Butler makes teams better. He has this bad reputation or whatever about pushing the young players and being a bad teammate. He is expecting your work ethic to be where his is at. That's the type of teammates you want. And that is the type of player that the Miami Heat culture embodies. So when he signed with Miami in the offseason, I knew firsthand that was going to be a perfect fit. And now they're proving my point.
Well, I think also you got Bam Adebayo and you got Tyler Hero and you got these guys who are willing to embrace that type of work ethic.
Well, that's my point. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're embracing. A lot of guys don't want to work that way. They don't want to be put through the fire, as Jordan would say. So.
And that all goes back to the Miami Heat culture. They really look at guys that want to be put through that fire.
It's the best way to go about things, and you're gonna find more success that way.
You also look at some of the other guys on the roster, and they haven't really had your traditional entrances into the NBA. The one that stands out obviously is Duncan Robinson. I think it's a little overblown how they talk about how he started at a D3 college school, and now he's worked his way up to transfer to Michigan. But what I like to point out is that he went undrafted, went through the Miami Heat's G League system with the Sky Force, and has really turned into a great player. And, I think me and Klucas have talked about on the show a lot how Miami has one of the best developmental programs in the NBA. So they're able to take a lot of these guys that maybe get overlooked and something gets turned out of them. Derrick Jones Jr. is like that as well, too. Now he hasn't gotten a lot of looks in the last 2 rounds. He's been used more for defensive purposes. But, he was having a very good, very productive 2019-2020 season.
Well, and you look and you start with Jimmy Butler. Miami took all the guys that almost basically nobody wanted. Pretty much a lot of people giving up on Jay Crowder. He's kind of has been, traded around several different teams in the last couple of years.
Iguodala didn't even want to play for Memphis.
Iguodala, Jimmy Butler to an extent. With everybody having that sour taste in their mouth of he doesn't get along with young players. They took the guys that nobody wanted, and they said, we're going to turn them into what we want. And so, and I think the beginning where it's all starts, and somebody said it, I was listening the other day when they said, it's why Jimmy Butler picked Miami. It starts with Pat Riley.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The Godfather.
It starts with Pat Riley, and Jimmy knowing going in that Pat Riley is a win-win-win guy. That's what sold him into going to Miami. And then you go down to Eric Spoelstra, who, like Dwayne Wade said, like I've said, when he first started with Miami, when he ended up with LeBron and D Wade and Bosh, and everybody was like, oh, everybody makes the comments, it's not really coaching. It's it's not hard to win when you have 3 All-Stars on your team and all this and that. And then we watched them all leave. And then we watched Miami still win, still manage to sneak into the playoffs, still winning these games.
That's been something I've been pointing out to you for years. I mean,
I've loved Spo. I've said ever since when LeBron left after year 1 and they made they didn't make the playoffs after that, but when the year 2 when they made the playoffs, I said from there on, I said Spoelstra can coach.
I remember, I think it was 2016. The Heat. This was one of the years the Heat didn't make. No, it was 2000. I'm making sure I got my years right. I think it was 2017. Yeah. No, it was 2016. 2016, it was one of the years we missed the playoffs, but the Heat finished with the best record post-All-Star break, and they had no All-Stars. And that's when I think I really pointed out to you, at least from a conversation wise, that I really talked to you is hey, Spo's the real deal. I think he's I think over the last 5 to 6 years, he's been probably the least. I think he's been one of the more disrespected coaches in the sense that he doesn't get the attention that he deserves. I think he's as good as Brad Stevens, but for whatever reason hasn't gotten the attention that Stevens gets.
I think he's a better head coach than Brad Stevens.
I would agree.
I think outside of Greg Popovich, maybe Steve Kerr, you can make the argument Spoelstra is the best coach in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, with Steve Kerr, it goes back to it's not hard to win with 5 All-Stars on your team. So, what can he really do is the real question. But, he's definitely up there. I personally would probably put him number 2 behind Pop just because, Pop is Pop. Outside of how they're playing, Spoelstra's one of the, if not the biggest catalyst for why Miami keeps winning, because he can coach, and you're seeing that in the bubble. Yes, is the bubble favorable for a lot of young teams because you're not playing in front of an away crowd and getting that feeling? Yes, but at the same time, when you're playing on a neutral court, no fans, no nothing, you're seeing who the real great teams are.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing who can really ball, and you're seeing who can really coach in these situations. And you can see now, with the 4 teams that are in there, who can really coach. So I think after this year, I think everybody kind of disrespected Frank Vogel, and Frank Vogel's proved a lot this year with the Lakers. Brad Stevens, we know, is obviously out there talked about as one of the best, as you said. Spoelstra, we just said Mike Malone. Everybody was willing to give up on after being fired by the Kings. So, but yeah, Miami. I said from the beginning when the bubble started, I said after watching the first 2 games of Miami, I said this team can go to the NBA Finals and come out the East.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, I ended up having them losing in the Eastern Conference Finals to Toronto originally, but I've been saying from the beginning they can go to the NBA Finals. And right now, not to jinx you all, it's looking very good. So, we'll see.
If they don't,
Plus,
I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you.
But, it also does help that I like seeing my Kentucky boys down there in Miami helping you all out.
Miami, 305.
Here's my question, though. If Miami holds on to beat Boston, what are the narratives going to be surrounding the Celtics? We're going to talk about the choke job that the Clippers just went through. I want to hear some negative narratives about the Celtics.
I don't think there's nothing negative to say about them. I mean, it's not a choke job. They weren't expected to win the Eastern Conference anyways. In fact, they weren't even expected to get to the East. Well,
yeah, they were one of the teams.
One of the teams, but yeah. But, I mean.
They had a higher percent than Miami, I'll tell you that much.
Other teams did too.
I would say the questions would start to raise and they play well together already, I believe, but can you keep Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum on the same team?
I mean, the thing about it is, Boston has lost 2 close games to Miami. I do expect it to be a tight series. I do expect it to go 6 or 7. I'd be very surprised to see Miami win in 4 or 5.
I think after this year, if Miami does end up winning in 4 or 5, I think you'll see the trade talks this offseason of do the Celtics need to trade Jaylen Brown for maybe a big man?
I think that would be a horrible move, but that's beside the point.
But because obviously Jason Tatum is your superstar. That's your guy. Everybody knows that by now. Marcus Smart is your glue. That's your glue guy. So you can't really afford to lose any of them. Kemba, at that point, it becomes Kemba and Jaylen Brown become expendable at that point.
I'll give you another one. What about Gordon Hayward?
Gordon Hayward, I think, is gone by the end of the year regardless. I've seen a lot of trade rumors of Gordon Hayward to the Pacers for Miles Turner.
I think that would be, a great move for both teams personally.
And I think if they can manage to pull that off and then keep Jaylen Brown in them, I think Boston would obviously probably be the favorites in the East next year.
I don't know how you could argue that.
But
depending on what.
But then again, if Giannis decides to ask for a trade and ends up in Miami, So, but yeah, so. But
I think it's over for the rest of the league if that's the case.
Yeah. Well, what will make me not watch basketball at all is if Giannis ends up in Golden State. So there'll be no point watching.
You're going to still watch basketball.
Oh, you said that about DeMarcus Cousins.
You said it about KD too.
No, I didn't say it about KD. I said I would watch with KD. I did say it about DeMarcus Cousins though.
And I think my prediction came true about that. We're just going to act like
he did play very well. Let's not take that away from him. And the limited games he played.
So, the Warriors.
Well, we'll have Clay, Steph, and KD back next year. That'll be exciting.
See, and that's the other thing is Boston's going to have to do something soon because if they can't even beat Miami next year, you got KD and Kyrie coming back in Brooklyn.
Well, that's another thing, though. How are they going to work out?
They've had a year to talk about it.
And also with them talking about getting another third possible superstar.
Giannis.
That's not Giannis, but I've seen a lot of like Spencer Dinwiddie and Jared Allen for Drew Holiday type deals.
I feel like that would be stupid.
I don't. I mean,
Oh,
still have DeAndre Jordan and Karis LeVert in that deal. So you still have your bench depth. Get Drew Holiday to play next to Kyrie, who's not that great of a defender. Drew Holiday can take over the lead role on defense for the guards. So,
I mean, but at this point in his career, you're still losing out on a lot of defense. Jared Allen is a much better rim protector than DeAndre Jordan is at this point in his career.
Yeah, but when you're in win now mode, you're willing to get rid of that.
I don't think that Drew Holiday is going to make them that much more of a win now team if you're going to give up that.
I think win now, as in win next year. Yeah, adding Drew Holiday makes them a win now team over getting rid of Spencer Dinwiddie and Jared Allen, who are both coming up on contracts that they're going to need too. So,
I mean, Drew Holiday, no disrespect to him, I think he's a very good player. I don't think that's a piece that I would be willing to give up that much to put me over the top. I don't think he puts you over the top at all.
So, but yeah, that's all I got.
Y'all have fun tonight.
I think we will.
Job.
We will.
So.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Less is More Sports podcast. Be sure to comment. Be sure to be on the lookout for that Twitter poll of who is the best big in the NBA between Nikola Jokic and Anthony Davis. But until next time, I'm your host, Les Abbott.
Jacob Klucas.
And Matt Spencer. See you guys.